Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Will. I'm joined again. Well, let's face it, John's basically the co host, I think, of this show. It's just me and him for the foreseeable future. In the last episode, he pitched his cool version of T3, and I mentioned at the end of that one that we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to pitch movie sequels that never came to be for whatever reason. So, these are usually cult classics, movies that didn't perform well at the box office necessarily, but they either should have had a sequel because of how much we enjoyed the movies, or they kind of hinted at, or kind of just said, we want to make a sequel, but they didn't come to be. So I'm going to do today, in this episode, I'm going to pitch a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China. And when that movie came out in 86, John and I think were just the perfect age for it. Really captured our imaginations.
Such a good movie.
As an Asian American, I think I always appreciated the fact that it was centered around this, Chinese mysticism and whatnot, mythology, and featured a lot of Asian American actors, most notably James Hong as the villain, uh, who's like 100 years old now and still acting.
Yeah, he's great.
I think if people who are unfamiliar with Big Trouble saw it today, I think there might be some criticism over the fact that Kurt Russell's the star, It's headlined by this white guy, but it's set in this very Asian world.
That's true, but he's not like the white savior, at least.
Yeah.
He's like the white, bumbling, funny guy.
I think I've heard rumblings of like The Rock wanting to remake the movie today. And so he's not Asian or, he's not Chinese either, but I guess
Rock
he's
could do it,
not
though.
he's
He's
not
funny.
white. But especially back in the 80s, you needed a big star to headline a weird movie like that, or else no one's going to make it. Instead of doing a review of the original, I'm just going to, if anyone's watching this, I assume that they've seen the original and they're a fan of the original.
You
So
should.
let's
You
not
should watch it. It's great.
let's not summarize it. But I remember this was a while ago already, a few years. I don't remember exactly when, but I remember we sat down to rewatch it and we showed it to your wife Kelly, who'd
Ah,
never seen it.
yep.
And my memory is that after the movie, she was just kind of like, "Okay, like okay,
She did
you
have a
guys like
similar
this."
response to the Big Lebowski. She was like, "Okay, saw that movie."
I think if you go into it cold, you just be like, "What the heck is this?" Right? If you probably need some kind of explanation or build up as to what you're gonna see, unless you just like weird movies, then you'd probably love it.
Yeah, maybe if we'd shown her the 80s trailer first, and so she would have got a
Mm.
hint of the kung fu and the supernatural and how ridiculous it is. Maybe if she'd been prepared for it, because we just said it was like the best movie ever and you have to see it.
Well, it is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just go and Big Trouble in Little China 2, which I think would be a sucky title. So this is Big Trouble in Little Tokyo, which I think is a natural evolution of the series. If you remember in the original, it ends with the little cliffhanger of Jack is driving away from San Francisco, blabbering away on his radio, and in the back there's the monster
Yeah, a cool monster.
that kind of disappeared during the climax. So I actually looked this up, and he's called the sewer
The
monster.
sewer
That's
monster. Okay.
He doesn't have a name, or that's just like the in the credits that's his title, sewer monster. So the sewer monster pops out of the back of his truck, like somehow he fits in the undercarriage of the truck, and roars at the screen.
Right.
And that was the hope for a sequel that never came. All right, so the first scene of the movie, it kind of opens like a horror movie with a kill, but it opens at a rest stop in the middle of the night, and of course Jack's there sleeping in his rig, and there's other truckers there. And remember, I'm gonna say the original came out in '86. I'm gonna say this is like '89,
Okay.
so it's still in the '80s.
Yep.
There's a hooker servicing the other truckers,
Okay.
right? Like a seedy '80s hooker
Lot of
servicing the
makeup,
other truckers.
just caked on. Are
uh,
we
like
talking?
a like a red vinyl dress or something like
Okay.
that,
Yep.
frizzy hair and whatever. And she's exiting some guy's truck after, doing what she does.
Just
And the sewer
good
monster pops
conversation.
out,
Okay.
right? The sewer monster pops out of Jack's rig and starts chasing her. And she's just like screaming, right? Playing hide and seek in this dimly lit truck stop.
All right.
And Jack's asleep in his rig, and the screaming doesn't bother him because he just, he thinks it's her, she's doing her job.
Ah, okay. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Wait, so how soon after the first movie is this scene? Is this like the next night
Right.
or the same night?
So this is pretty much, yeah, it's because when he leaves San Francisco, he doesn't have cargo, right?
Right. Yeah.
So now in this truck stop, he doesn't have it either, and so the monster is still in the back.
Okay.
And
All right.
so yeah, this could be the next night or
Next night.
whatever he's been on the road.
All right.
So finally, the monster gets her, and she screams, and the camera like zooms into her mouth or something.
All
and,
right.
and Jack is startled awake, and he just decides, hey, he's gonna hit the road again. So he pops a handful of Nodos and he washes it down with whiskey, and he
That sounds like
he
Jack.
hits the road. And presumably, with the sewer monster back in the truck. So Jack arrives in Los Angeles and he goes straight to Little Tokyo, and he's returning to his depot or home base, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And his boss, Gooch, is there to meet him.
Gooch.
So Gooch is short for Noguchi.
Ah,
And
okay.
I was thinking that he's played by none other than Pat Morita.
Okay.
Now, I know a lot of people are going to think, oh, Mr. Miyagi, right? But he's
Right.
not playing Miyagi. A lot of people, younger people may be unaware that Morita started his career as a stand-up comedian, and that was pretty
I
much,
did not know that.
yeah.
Okay.
And he was on Happy Days playing a comedic role, and
Yes, I
so
remember that.
he's back here playing comedy, and he's not using the Japanese accent, right? He's just speaking normally
All
with
right.
his American accent. So he's his boss and like comic relief. So we see that Jack and Gooch, or the Gooch, have a have a good rapport,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that Jack is always complaining to him about the long hours and the low pay and everything.
Right.
They just have a good banter, go back and forth. So Jack he actually leaves his rig at the depot and jumps into his Camaro, and he leaves, goes to his apartment in downtown LA. Now remember, in the 80s, downtown LA, before any kind of gentrification, it's still, there's still bad parts of downtown LA, but
Uh-huh. Yeah.
here in the 80s, it's real kind of,
Yes.
in general, it's kind of a crap hole.
Yes, definitely.
Um, so he goes to his apartment, and we find out that he had a girlfriend who's now his ex-girlfriend because she's locked him out.
Oh,
And he asks, hey, where's all my stuff? She says, try the dumpster behind the building. So he goes around back, and sure enough, there's all of his cardboard boxes and whatnot. And we hear thunder, and it just starts pouring rain at that same
that's
time.
classic. Okay.
Yeah. So with nowhere else to go, Jack goes to crash at the Gooch's place, his house in Little Tokyo,
Okay.
and we meet Gooch's troubled college-age nephew, Lance. And so Gooch is kind of a mentor to this kid, and I suppose Jack too, because Jack knows him. And we find out that Lance has been dabbling in some sort of street gang activity,
Mm.
and the Gooch isn't happy about it. Neither is Jack, and they have a big argument about this. Like, why can't you be a good kid and just go to college and whatnot? So Lance storms out of the house angry, whereby he's mowed down by a hail of
Oh
gunfire.
no, Lance. We hardly knew you.
This this group of several motorcycles, probably Kawasaki Ninjas,
Okay.
they
Yes.
drive by. One of the guys has like an Uzi.
Mm-hmm.
And so he shoots, and Jack ducks for cover, and he actually sees the face of the shooter, who's another young Japanese American man
Mm-hmm.
named Haru. So Lance is killed.
Wait, instead of
Jack and the
instead of
Gooch,
machine guns,
yeah,
shouldn't it be like samurai swords or something? Because this is Big Trouble in Little Tokyo.
it could be, but uh,
Although I guess that was done in what was that 80s
Black
Black
Rain,
Rain, right? Ooh,
yeah,
Andy Garcia gets killed that way. Is it Andy Garcia?
yeah.
Okay, all right. So Uzi then.
I mean, it could go that way, but I figure machine gun fire does a lot more damage quickly, and Jack and the Gooch have to duck for cover while the house is shot
Right.
up too.
Okay.
Anyway, the cops arrive. There's two detectives. One of them is named Emmy, and she's this hot Japanese detective,
Okay.
female detective, who just happens to have green eyes.
Oh.
And she's been transferred over from Tokyo, presumably because of her knowledge of Japanese
Okay.
gangs. And her partner is this loud Italian dude named Morelli. And I'm thinking of like Danny
Danny Aiello. All right. Young Danny Aiello.
Danny Aiello or Dennis Franz,
Okay.
maybe. So Emmy informs Jack that Lance's street gang must have crossed paths with the local Yakuza,
All right.
who like to carry out assassinations in the rain, which is apparently I don't know if that's an urban myth or not,
Oh,
but
you're my friend. I've never heard that.
using the rain to help destroy
Oh,
evidence.
yeah, that makes sense. Harder to see for witnesses,
And, obviously Jack is interested in Emmy, because she's hot, right?
and she has green eyes.
Right. So next we meet the local head of the Yakuza named Sato. And he, remember in the original, Lopan basically has his own building and everything?
Yes.
So Sato also has his own building, which is like this fortress-like skyscraper in downtown
All right.
LA. And we find out that Haru, the shooter, is Sato's son. And he informs his dad that there was a witness, and it was this white dude, this white trucker guy. So Sato actually is like, oh, okay. He sees an opportunity now to eliminate both Jack and the Gooch, who happens to be like his longtime rival,
Oh,
neighborhood rival. Maybe,
wait.
they go back
So
to,
is Gooch also a gangster, or was he like the good guy and Sato's the bad guy? They just like butted
right?
heads.
It's kind of, oh man, I just remembered. Wasn't Sato the bad guy from Karate Kid 2?
Maybe.
I think his name was
That's
Sato.
fine.
Oh man, I didn't really intend it to be this way, but kind of like in Karate Kid 2,
Yeah.
Mr. Miyagi's the good guy, Sato's the bad guy. They were childhood friends. They created this rivalry over a woman and whatnot.
Okay.
So, kind of in that vein, though, they both grew up in Little Tokyo, and the Gooch, took the straight and narrow
Mm-hmm.
path. Sato went bad, but they've always had a rivalry for these reasons.
Okay.
Um, and I named him Sato in honor of my friend Garrett Sato, the actor. Sato says he'll take care of it personally. So Sato and his gang, the whole gang, basically, they go to the Gooch's depot, and they're gonna blow it up with
Okay.
dynamite or something. and they're attacked by the sewer monster. And the monster starts like ripping the goons apart limb
Okay,
from limb,
good.
right? And now we can really see how much damage he
He
can
just like takes
inflict.
arms.
And instead of the hooker, the sewer monster now is pursuing Sato down some darkened alleyways.
Wait, and is Sato, because
Before,
is Sato the main boss, the older guy? And who was the
yeah,
shooter? The younger guy, his son, Haru.
Haru,
Okay, all right. So
yeah,
Sato's being chased by the monster.
he's cornered in an alleyway and he gets attacked. And again, we think
Dead.
he's
Right.
dead. He's been killed. Sure enough, the cops arrive later at the depot, and that reunites Jack the Gooch, Emmy, and Morelli. The hot-headed Morelli wants to know who killed the thugs because all they see is this bloody
Right.
evidence. Because if it wasn't Jack or the Gooch like protecting the depot, who
Right.
was it? So Emmy calms him down and says, "Look, before we jump to any conclusions, we'll go question Sato." So like the next morning, they go and to Sato's building to question him, and surprise, surprise, he's still
Mm-hmm.
alive. Although he doesn't look too hot. He looks like he's taking a beating or
Okay.
something,
Does he look like he's got an
or he was
infection, like
attacked.
he's sick, maybe?
Not yet, but he looks like he's scratched
Okay.
up, or maybe he's got some bloody
All right.
bandages, right? So Emmy starts to lean on him and threaten arresting his son for the
Mm-hmm.
drive-by. And Sato just kind of explodes and he responds with violence. So this fight ensues. Imagine Sato's office. It's not just some little dinky little corner office. It's like a big, roomy office that's also like slash museum. And he's got,
Oh, these ancient Japanese trinkets.
yep,
Okay.
yep, including swords
Uh-huh.
and stuff. So he's fighting them through the office slash museum, and at one point they grab the swords, right? And they're going at
Okay.
it with the swords. And it seems as if Sato is gonna kill both of them because he gets the
Right.
upper hand. And that scene's end with yet another
Oh.
cliffhanger. So now we're at Lance's funeral, and this is a chance now where we get to meet the good folk of Little
Mm-hmm.
Tokyo. And I'm talking about the mom and pop shopkeepers, um, the high school and college age kids who have grown up in the neighborhood. And there's also this really popular ninjutsu club who have members who are teens and college age kids. So we meet those people and we learn that, oh, they're at the end of the rope with the yakuza and all this gang
All
violence and
right.
whatnot. And from afar, Jack sees Haru, who's just kind of who her. You know what? Haru wasn't at the depot,
Oh, okay, right,
maybe
yeah. Because
because
Sato said,
Sato
"I'll take
said,
good care of this myself. I'll bring
right,
my closest, soldiers. You stay behind. You're my son." Blah blah blah.
right. So Jack sees Haru from afar, and the kid's just like there to intimidate him, and smile sadistically or whatnot.
At Lynch's funeral. Terrible.
After the funeral, Morelli shows up at the Gooch's house, and he's with funny looking eyes, and like he takes off his sunglasses or something, and you don't see his pupils; they're just
Oh my
white.
god.
If you remember, that happens in the original. Lopan does it to the
Oh right,
women.
when they're like
Do you
under his
remember that?
spell. Okay.
Yeah. And Morelli like pulls out his revolver and he tries to kill Jack and the
Okay.
Gooch. And another fight ensues. And Jack gets the upper hand. He subdues Morelli and brings him back to his
Like
senses.
slapping him or
So
pouring beer in his face or
yeah,
something. How would Jack do it?
maybe or he grabs a burning hot teapot and puts
Oh,
it against his
oh
face or
man.
something, right?
Okay.
And it brings him
All right.
back, right? Like fire in
Oh,
Indiana
in the
Jones and
number
the
two.
Temple of
Okay.
Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the ambulance is carting Morelli away, and now he's singing he's singing, spilling his guts here, and he tells Jack that Sato's holding Emmy captive. She's still alive.
And that he brainwashed me somehow using
Yeah.
Japanese magic.
But Morelli survives, but we're not going to see him again, basically, because he
Right.
needs care. But remember that. And then Jack asks Gooch, well, how do we get into Sato's building? It's guarded by security and everything, just like
Mm-hmm.
Lopan's building was. And the Gooch is just like, there's no way. There's no way. Cut to, they're using a ruse to get into the building, just like
Right.
the original. So I thought this was kind of
Well,
funny
because
that
the first
Jack is,
route, when Jack tries to get into Lopan's building, he like changes his
yeah,
haircut. And he's supposed to be like fixing the telephones or something,
yeah,
and
something
he's
like
using like
that.
a nerdy voice. Yeah, it was pretty funny. I remember that scene. Okay, so what's yours?
And Wang is, isn't it? No, is his name Wong or Wang?
Oh, his friend.
His friend from the first movie.
I hope it's Wong.
Jeez, I'm letting down the other fans. I think it's Wang.
It might be.
Uh, Wang was talking up security,
Right.
right, as a distraction. So in this version, Jack's dressed up like an Elvis impersonator,
Okay.
and I was using that kind of like Kurt Russell has this connection with Elvis. Even he's in a movie where he
Oh,
played an Elvis
right, with Kevin
impersonator and whatnot.
Costner. 3,000 miles
And
to Graceland or
according to
something.
like movie
Yeah,
folklore, Kurt Russell was the voice of Elvis in Forrest Gump.
I did not know that.
Uh,
Okay.
so anyway, so he's dressed as an Elvis impersonator, and the Gooch is acting as his manager, and so they sashay into the lobby, and the Gooch occupies the guards while Jack just makes his way to the back, like the
What does he?
original.
What does he say? Like, I'm here for a party. I'm Elvis.
Yeah, maybe, maybe he could be Elvis. Maybe he's an Elvis impersonator stripper.
Okay, that's super funny.
I
Yeah, I'm
don't know.
here. I'm here for Sato's birthday.
Anyway, it's just so crazy that it
Right, or
works,
they
right? And
think it
he
works.
squirts into
Yeah.
the back. And like the original, he descends into the bowels of the
Mm-hmm.
fortress, and he finds Emmy alive, and she's chained to the wall. And her clothes have been artfully shredded, so that they're covering the important
Okay,
parts.
sounds very
But she,
80s. Yep.
she directs him to a room where he discovers that the sewer monster is biting and infecting gang
Okay.
members. And I guess at this point we don't really see the results of that, but he's just, instead of tearing them apart now, he's infecting them with whatever he
Like a vampire
possesses.
kind of. Okay.
Yeah. And before Jack can raise any kind of alarm, he's captured
Mm.
by Sato, who strangely talks as if he knows Jack, which
Right.
they don't, right? In this world, they don't. Okay, back at the Gooch's house, there's a knock on the door, and he's surprised by Gracie Law,
The reporter?
Kim
The reporter from
Cattrall.
the first movie. It's Kim Cattrall?
Yes. Uh
I
huh.
forgot that. Okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay, so we're bringing her back. It's weird because Jess got a new love
So,
interest, but okay. It's going to make things confusing.
so she's a reporter, right?
Yep.
Investigative reporter. She's heard about this gang activity up in San Francisco. So she comes down to LA, and she wants to know where Jack is, and obviously, she's still holding a flame for him. And the Gooch says, he hasn't returned from Sato's fortress yet. And this time Gracie's like, okay, she steals herself, and she's like, we got to
All
go
right.
rescue him, cuz they went through all of
And
that
it's been like
stuff
now it's
just
like four
recently.
days later. Yeah.
Yeah,
A week
a
later.
week
Yeah.
later or something, I don't know. So back to Jack and Sato. So in talking with each other, Jack discovers that, and I'm not sure how fans are going to feel about this, but Jack discovers that Lopan's essence has survived,
in the monster,
and
and then when it bites someone, it
now
transfers
it's
it
in
to
Sato,
Sato.
and now Sato is transforming into this weird hybrid villain where he's got both guys'
He's
personalities
Sato and
residing in
Lopan.
him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. What do you think? I was thinking maybe he starts his his face starts getting disfigured and everything because he's literally
He's
melding.
turning into Lopan.
He's becoming. Yeah,
We could You could have a scene
I don't know how
earlier,
that would work.
although that would come maybe ruin the surprise. But you have a scene earlier where it's Sato and he's been bitten already, and he's got a bandage around the bite, and then he's not feeling very good. And he takes the bandage off, and there's no wound. It's totally healed. And then
Hmm.
he splashes water in his face, and he looks in the mirror, and he sees Lopan.
Hmm.
And Lopan's like, "I'm coming. I'm I'm coming out now." Something, I don't know.
Something like that. But hopefully we establish that Sato's got a real piece of work
Yes,
himself in a
right. So we
straight
don't
up
feel bad for
villain.
Sato.
So I don't.
Yeah.
But also, I don't feel like Lopan is just gonna immediately take
Okay. It'll
over.
take a while. It's like an infection.
It's kind of like being possessed, like,
Okay. Okay.
The
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exorcist or whatever here. All right, so this might be a little confusing from here out because I might say Lopan or Sato, but I'm kind of
I
referring
get
to the
it.
same
Yeah.
person, Lopan, Sato,
Mm-hmm.
Losato, or whatever we want to call it.
LS.
So, with great delight, Lopan starts just peel Jack's skin off because that was
Oh.
something he kind of alluded to in the first one.
Okay.
But he doesn't get very far
Okay. I gotcha.
because this group of ninjas arrive to rescue Jack,
And
and
these are
they're
the good
aid.
ninjas from the ninjutsu school.
Yep, and they're
Okay.
aided by Gracie and the Gooch, who are doing some kind of distraction as well.
Okay.
Now, I thought this was a bold choice here, but in the chaos of this battle now, Gracie kills Haru, Sato's son,
Okay.
in order to save Jack's life. So like
Okay.
Haru's like about to kill Jack, and then Gracie, she doesn't knock him out or whatever, she kills him.
She shoots him. Or yeah.
Yeah. So Jack ends up escaping from the fortress along with most of the people, but Gracie doesn't make it out,
Oh no.
and Lopan now has two girls with green eyes again,
Oh right. Okay.
which may or may not be relevant, but
Well,
I thought it.
what was the reason for the Lopan in the first movie? He wanted two women with green eyes to make him young again, or something.
Well, was like he was gonna sacrifice the Chinese girl and marry. No, no, the other way. He was gonna sacrifice Gracie and end up marrying the Chinese girl, but by doing that ritual, he was he's basically gonna, yeah, turn young again, but
And more powerful.
be made of flesh again or something because when he starts bleeding, he's all like, "Oh, it's working."
Oh right, because he was like a dried up husk.
Yeah,
Okay. And whatever. Sato, did you come up with an actor that Sato should be? Because maybe he should just be an older guy. You know.
right. Somebody, well, he'd have to be somebody who's similar in age to Pat Morita, and I don't know who that would be necessarily because
Okay.
it's not like back then there was this wealth of famous Japanese American actors.
Yeah, that's true.
So it could have been, it could be a Japanese actor. I don't know.
Okay.
Like Emmy is a Japanese, would have been a famous Japanese actress instead of. I would really not like it if they
Oh, who's
cast.
like who's the most famous Japanese actor from like Japanese movies in the 80s? Uh,
I don't know, but you know, uh,
like who starred in a bunch of Kurosawa movies?
oh, Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah, that'd be
I don't know
awesome.
if he'd be too old or not. for
No,
that.
that's good though. Even if he is too old, it's fine.
Oh, what's the name of that Japanese auteur actor guy? Takeshi.
Oh,
Takeshi Kitano. I wonder if he'd be
Katana.
old enough in
I don't think he'd be
89.
old enough in the
Mm-hmm.
80s. No, I think Mifune. That's better. Because
Okay.
if Lopan is getting stealing the body of a younger man, that's kind of what he wants, anyways. So he needs
Mm.
to, like, oh, I'm stuck in an old man's body again, so I need to become young again and maybe fully myself by sacrificing the one green-eyed girl and marrying the other. Or maybe this time he has to sacrifice both.
All right, we're already nearing the end here, which is
Wait,
good.
what's the low point? Do we have a low point? Oh,
Uh,
is this it? That Gracie's been abducted and everyone else has escaped?
yes, I think so.
Okay. So yeah, because both love interests, both hot chicks are now locked in the fortress, and Jack's
Right.
on the outside.
So, Emmy, who's still alive, and Lopan have this weird conversation. This time, she claims to know who he is, and
Mm.
that they've met in the past, maybe hundreds or thousands of years ago.
What? Okay.
Yeah, and Lopan. Well, the way that I set it up here, Lopan says he's gonna marry Gracie now and sacrifice Emmy because she's a pain, a thorn in his side,
Oh,
and they're
okay.
gonna do the whole grand wedding thing and
Mm-hmm.
ritual and whatnot. And but Sato wants to kill Gracie in retaliation for the fact that she killed his son.
Right.
And so this, that's opposed to Lopan's plan, so there's a conflict there internally.
Okay, so Lopan and Sato are fighting control of the body, and they want different people to die. That's good. That's
And this
fun.
whole thing about Emmy talking about, the hundreds or thousands of years ago, I figure at this point it plays into the mysticism of this universe
Mm-hmm.
that exists. But it will become clear here in the end as things get bonkers.
Oh.
Um, so Jack, the Gooch, and the ninjas, they return to Sato's fortress. This time there's no sneaking in, all right?
Okay.
They have like 5 big rigs, including Jack's rig, and they just drive them straight into the lobby.
just bust through the
Right?
walls.
Just, yeah,
Awesome. Okay.
smashing in, taking out security.
Yep.
And then the ninjas all, come out of the trucks uh, like clowns coming out of a clown car.
Just flipping out, throwing ninja
Uh,
stars.
and so there's a huge battle like in the original.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I guess, we see that, the sewer monster had been biting the gangsters, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've transformed into Oni, the Japanese demon like figures.
Okay.
So they're,
So they're
they're,
like super soldiers or whatever.
yeah, and they're just like, they're bigger and stronger. They're not like giants, but, um, they're like 7 feet tall or
They turn into
something.
bodybuilders. Like, yeah, okay.
That'd be funny if it was, because bodybuilding was huge back in the 80s,
Yeah.
right? With all the, it'd be funny if it was, yeah, these super jack guys like He-Man,
Yep.
but just with makeup on their faces. But they're all like in baby oil and
Yeah.
stuff.
There we go. See? Yeah. That's what happens
And
when you get bit by the monster.
oh, like sumo too. They're like in
Oh,
loincloths
shit.
and
Oh,
stuff.
that'd be good. Okay. Yeah, they're all sumo wrestlers now.
Yeah, sumo. I guess that makes more sense. They're sumo wrestlers with demon
Uh
faces.
huh. Like crazy red eyes or something. That's better than bodybuilders. There should be a scene where
So,
Jack like pulls out his gun and he's got a sumo wrestler, and the sumo wrestler demon doesn't have any bullets. He's like, I got this, and he shoots the sumo wrestler, and the bullets just like bounce off his giant belly.
yeah.
And Jack's like, oh no.
And so the ninjas are fighting the Oni and Seguch, and I don't know if there's some regular people. They're fighting the guards, and then Jack is fighting Lopan slash Sato.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, just like in the first one, Jack manages to kill Lopan, this time hopefully for good.
Was it? Is it
Now
with a
this
knife? The first one,
it,
it's like
it
he's like, "I'm going to kill you now, Jack. I'm going to throw this throwing knife," and Jack just catches it and throws it back into his head.
yeah, that might be a little too
Yeah, we can't do that again.
yeah.
Something funny like that. Something totally off the wall.
So the sewer monster comes, and in a rage he starts to swell up, okay? Just like,
Oh, the other one that blows up.
yeah,
Right.
I
Was that one of
believe
the
that,
like the Raiden brothers or something?
right. I think his he was Thunder. I think he was called
Okay.
Thunder. So the sewer monster this time he starts to swell, and as opposed to blowing up like a balloon,
Mm-hmm.
he embiggens himself to King Kong size proportions, but not like in some of the movies where King Kong's the size of a skyscraper or
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Okay.
Just like in the original, third 1933 or whenever it was King Kong, where he's a giant ape and what is he, like 2 stories tall or something?
Oh, okay. I got it. Yeah. All right. So he's like
Something.
30 feet tall or something.
Yeah. So he's huge, but
He's not
he's
a
not like
skyscraper size.
Godzilla
Okay. Yeah.
sized. But I was thinking here that he's turning into this huge monster like some kind of kaiju, and that works with Japanese
Okay. Maybe when he
mythology.
starts swelling up and changing, he like his because he's like a furry ape looking thing. Maybe the fur kind of falls off and there's scales underneath. So he could be like a 30-foot
Yeah,
tall
well,
mini lizard monster.
well, I would no, we
Not too
can't
much.
exactly do that because I was about to tell you why.
I need the ape.
So Jack and Gracie and the Gooch they drive off in Jack's rig, but they're pursued now by the kaiju sewer monster
Mm-hmm.
through the streets, who's just destroying things, left and right.
Right.
Emmy, who's been freed, she transforms into her true self now,
She's a
and
dragon.
she's, yes,
Okay. All right. All right.
a dragon, or I guess it can be called different things, but uh,
Like that
Ryu,
the like kind of Japanese snake dragon thing.
yeah,
Okay.
uh
All
huh.
right.
So she gets into a scrap with the sewer monster and kills him. But obviously there's carnage through the
Yep.
streets. So in the end, Lopan, Sato, and the sewer monster are all vanquished, and Jackie, Gracie, and the Gooch survive to fight another day. And Emmy survives, obviously, but we don't really know what her deal is. Maybe she flies off into the night as a dragon.
Okay.
Now, there's an epilogue. New York City, Manhattan, Trump Tower,
Okay.
which I think existed then.
Maybe 89.
Uh, there's a gathering of mafia
Oh.
dons, let's say in a banquet hall or
Mm-hmm.
something. Morelli's there, and Emmy's there back in human form, and they're in disguise
Oh.
now. They're working it
Okay.
as, you know, Emmy's just like some hot chick, gangster girlfriend or
They're
something.
undercover cops. Is okay.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Jack and Gracie burst into the room pretending to be dumb American tourists from Wichita or something. And they're doing their whole act or whatever before Jack's just like, the hell with it. And he breaks out his guns and there's a shootout.
Okay.
And so my, you know, so this is a teaser of Big Trouble in Little Italy,
There should be
part
like
three.
a like the mafia boss like starts speaking Italian and I don't know some kind of Italian monster or magic. I don't know what it would be. He summons like ancient Roman soldiers or something.
um, so I don't know, more of the same,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but I just thought maybe since Emmy's from Japan, it could be they go to Japan and that opens up a whole world of, different kind of world,
Right.
different but same. But using Morelli and Little Italy and keeping it in America, maybe that works better.
Yeah, it's funny either way. Like it says, what's Jack's last name?
Burden.
Jack Burton will return in Big Trouble in Little Italy. You know,
So what'd you think? I mean, was it too much like the original?
I mean, no, you want that. I want that fan service of playing off, being making it aware that we know this is a direct sequel and this is fun. And yeah, I want all that fun stuff. And having Lopan back, that's probably what I would have done. And I feel like there should have been a little bit more of Japanese mysticism and magic. Although at the end you get those the monster, what'd you call them? The Japanese demon or whatever, but they were going to be
Yeah,
like sumo wrestlers.
yeah.
I do like that,
I
but
think
it's like that comes from the Lopan monster. It'd be cool if there was already
hmm.
some kind of like Japanese mythical magic before.
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
Emmy turns
yeah, I
into a
agree.
a dragon. So
I agree with you. I think another way it could go is because in the original, all of the mysticism stuff is already built into it, and there's the weird creatures in the subterranean tunnels, and Lopan has like monsters working for him.
yes,
I think it could go that way in this movie where Sato is similar and he's got connection to the mysticism of the past just like Emmy
right,
does. And maybe maybe Sato serves some grand demon who's who could be the villain in part 3, like some super villain,
right.
you know? But that's where he derives his
we
powers
could we
from or
could add
whatever.
that in when Sato and the Gooch's backstory gets told. It's like we were
Hmm.
both, basically brothers. We grew up in the same temple, and that's when we both learned about the Japanese magic.
Yeah, and Sato sold his soul to the devil basically
Yes.
and gained power and riches,
Uh
but
huh.
there's a downside.
And he says, but we have some good magic tricks up our sleeves.
Yeah.
And then when Emmy turns into the water dragon, there you go.
Obviously, if my treatment wasn't so half baked, then yeah, it would have been filled with even more references to Japanese mythology. So that would have to be, in the real thing,
Mm-hmm.
that would all be worked out
Mm-hmm.
obviously ahead of time.
I like having Gracie Law show up. She should really be the. I mean, Emmy could have just been like, if Gracie Law didn't show up and Emmy was the new love interest, that would have worked out fine. And then she turns into like a dragon at the end, and he's like, okay. And then she just like flies away.
Well, I
Like,
wanted it could have been like, yeah, totally new love
right.
interest like Indiana Jones or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, James Bond, but I wanted to set up a love triangle. And I think, again, if the treatment was more detailed, then the love
Love triangle.
triangle would
Okay.
have more of a
But no, but I
payoff.
like having her come back, and I like the two that Lopan needs, the two green eyed women, and I really like the like you could go with uh was the Sam Raimi Spider Man villain Willem Dafoe, the Green Goblin, when it's like it's him, and then he's talking to a different version of himself, but that could be Sato and Lopan, and they're arguing, and maybe even Lopan starts not just being in the mirror, but he's like there, and Sato and him are arguing at each other, and it'd be, and then a door would open, and his henchmen would come in, and they were like, "Is everything okay, boss?" And he's like, "Yes."
Yeah, that's, it's hard to capture in a treatment, but the fact that the original had so much comedy, and that's part of what makes it
Yep.
great. So there'd have to be that element in here
Uh huh.
too. And obviously, casting Pat Morita helps, but that would just be, opportunities for comedy, like you're just saying, hopefully would be
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah. It's a comedy, action, horror, fantasy, I guess.
Mm.
Right? There's fantasy elements, there's horror
Yeah, yeah,
elements, but mostly it's
yeah.
a comedy. Um, I think that's why we love it.
Mm.
And mostly it's like in Jack, he makes fun of himself, and he looks like he's gonna be this big tough guy, but he's kind of he's a meatball.
Right. All right, so that does it for today's episode, Big Trouble in Little Tokyo. Let us know what you thought. And in the next episode, John is going to be pitching a sequel that never came to be, but fans have been actually hoping for, pining for decades now, which is The Goonies Part 2. All right, so that's next time. Please join us. Bye.
That's good.